Sometimes I wish, and I'm saying this seriously, that we too had a nuclear weapon, because that is what Europe and America understands. The impact of European and American and Russian and Chinese interference is a raw wound. It is not something that is in the past. It is something that is happening as we speak.
Sitting here waiting for someone to contain me with sanctions, with obstructions, with the confusion, all sorts of things. This is a declaration of war. And we had our position very clear, not yesterday or the day before, but we said this is not the kind of all world order that the peoples of all continents need.
Welcome to Draft for Africa, where we delve deep into the heart of Africa's stories, its challenges, and its triumphs. Join us on a journey to unravel the intricate tapestry of Africa's past and present as we explore how history shapes our future. From the echoes of ancient empires to the dynamic voices of today's changemakers, Draft for Africa brings you insightful analysis, captivating narratives, and the untold stories that define our continent. Discover the power of unity, the strengths of diversity, and the resilience of a continent on the rise. Be part of the conversation, be part of the challenge. If you're passionate about Africa and its future, hit that like button and subscribe for more enriching content. Let's refine Africa together.
Soviet war, it's a very long story. I don't want to go into the details, but there were mistakes. One of the historic mistakes is the dismantling of the Soviet Union. We're not very nostalgic, but again, it was one historic mistake to us and to the group. It's not a matter of individual perception. The cooperation programs will have to include peace and security, peace and stability. It is critical. How can we possibly implement these programs without guaranteeing stability in one area? Even the bilateral arrangements will have to take stock of this. So it's not a matter of who is where and what are the defense and security programs. Defense and security programs are part of the comprehensive partnership that we'll have to develop ultimately. It's not a way of allowing one nation or another nation have a base here, have facilities here. That's not that comes within the broader context. If we are talking about infrastructure, talking about energy, about water programs, about mining, about promoting investments in a number of other industries, we need stability. The fact that we see today one of the major obstacles of developmental programs at the continental level in Africa or even sub-regional level is stability. Stability is a prerequisite. So cultivating or developing partnership will require a conducive environment for implementing developmental issues, which will take stock of cooperation in the field of defense and security. How can we work together to guarantee stable environments for our jointly designed program? So the sky is the limit. There is no way of which place, where place, and how to do it. We have to guarantee stability at a bilateral level. We'll have to work together to guarantee that our programs are implemented in a very secure environment. Given the continuous instability, interference from outside forces, the instability that becomes generates as a result of mismanagement and miscalculations within a localized area, we need to go beyond that and create a very stable, peaceful environment. And the security and defense cooperation becomes a natural outcome. It's not a matter of preferring or making arrangements bilateral or multilateral. We have to work together to secure stability in any program we design. So I don't have any exclusive programs. No, we are not going backwards and talking about history. History full of mistakes. Where we are now is a result of our mistakes in a way. And we have to recognize that we have made mistakes, correct these mistakes, but for the future we need to make arrangements so that we can avoid wasting our time and resource and focus on implementing our. We learned a lesson from the last 30 years of diplomatic relationships. Now we are entering a new phase, a new global order. And we are determined to work together to see what the future looks like and cooperate in all fields so that our bilateral relationships within a multilateral context will move forward to promote a new order, a new world order.
This is your first official visit to Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visited Eritrea in January. What does this intensification of contacts mean for the relations between our countries?
It's not only bilateral. As I mentioned earlier, the visit of Foreign Minister Lavrov was in Asmara. We had a very fruitful discussion on cultivating partnership for the long term. And we had to go through evaluating the experience of the last years, 30 years. How do we move forward? Promote bilateral cooperation programs, but also face the challenge that we jointly face. It's not a matter of having a hub or not having a hub. It's an issue of bilateral cooperation on defense and security. Now, if we have a coastline of 1,100 kilometers or 1,200 kilometers with more than 300 islands in a very sensitive international waterway, we need to develop the infrastructure. We'll have to have an architecture of providing all the services, an airport here, a port here, a harbor here, a dry dock here, a shipyard, a boatyard, electricity, energy, water supply. All sorts of programs will have to be put there. Not only Eritrea, but the whole region will have to have its own infrastructural program. The interfacing of all these international or constructions on infrastructure, interconnect infrastructure. You cannot have isolated energy programs in the whole region. You cannot have roads and railways or even airports and harbors totally isolated from each other. They're interconnected. They have to come to a situation where they can provide the services required for the developmental program, but also provide the services for securing peace and stability. You have to have this infrastructure. You have to have the design, the architecture, and work together. The fact that I mentioned earlier, we need to have joint programs, multilateral programs of securing an environment conducive for implementing these bilateral cooperation programs we are discussing. How do you do it? You need to have the facilities there. The services will have to be there available. Not a matter of one nation coming and putting a base here or another there or a hub here and a hub there. That's not that's a resolved issue. If we successfully implement what we are negotiating and agreeing upon and creating an environment and infrastructure for broader cooperation at the regional level, then we need to learn from our failed experiences in the past and come up with successful programs for the future.
We Africans must stop operating in silos. Rwanda alone will not confront them. Burundi alone will not confront them. But if we go through the regional bodies and ultimately the African Union, we may indeed succeed in putting away this bulwark. And remember, it is no longer just Europe. There is a new scramble for Africa. The Chinese are here. The Turks are here. The Qataris are here. All of them are coming back. And the military bases that you see here is telling you that if you don't behave, we are going to use force. Sometimes I wish, and I'm saying this seriously, that we too had a nuclear weapon, because that is what Europe and America understands. The impact of European and American and Russian and Chinese interference is a raw wound. It is not something that is in the past. It is something that is happening as we speak. And therefore, when we speak to it, we are speaking to it to warn ourselves of the reality. When we speak about the Danidas and the NGOs, these are bodies whose raison d'etre is to ensure that we remain in a perpetual state of begging. That is what we are doing to warn ourselves. And we are not for 1 minute saying that we will shut ourselves out from the rest of the world. What we are saying is that we must define how we engage with the whole world. And we are saying that as individual countries, we are weak, and the rest of the world wants to operate and to deal with us in our weak state. The United States of America are dealing with Rwanda on second-hand clothing. Rwanda cannot resist them. Burundi cannot. Kenya cannot. Uganda cannot. But if we are East Africa with a population of 300 million, we can. If we are SADC, we can. If we are ECOWAS, we can. So this is what we are saying. And we are saying further that going forward, we must also recognize our internal weaknesses. And what is our weaknesses? Chinua Achebe said it very well. The problem of Africa is simply and squarely one of political leadership. The rank of many political leaders in Africa are thieves. Let's call them by their name. They are thieves. They are individuals who are not interested in the interest of this country, And as long as we continue electing such individuals into positions of power across Africa, they are going to be manipulated. What then is the responsibility of the citizenry? The responsibility of the citizenry is to make demands. The chairman here, I hope he has received the several letters that I have written to him. I've written several letters to his organization, talking about the role of the African Union in peacemaking. I wrote to the chairman only last week about the situation in Sudan, saying we must solve our own problems. And I want to see a crusading African Union, so that it's not the Americans and the Saudi Arabians who are summoning them to Jeddah. It should be in Addis Ababa. In a nutshell, Joe, what I'm saying is that we have a responsibility to ourselves, both at the leadership level and at levels of the civic society. We must be engaged in a positive manner, and we must keep on shouting without being diplomatic, because diplomacy is lulling us into a false sense of security. And lastly, I want to say this. When foreign powers come, we must always be reminded of these goodies that they bring to us. It used to be said of the Trojan War that even when the Greeks bear a gift, they do not mean well. They never mean well. And the sooner we say it, recognizing the external threat, recognizing the domestic weaknesses, the safer we are. Right now, as I conclude, there is a group of experts going around East Africa, collecting views about the constitution of East Africa. I've just written to them this morning. They are leaving Kenya. If you ask 10 Kenyans, possibly only one knows they are in Kenya. Then they will be going to Burundi. If you ask your typical African about Africa Agenda 2063 out of 10, if 2 know about Africa Agenda 2063, you'll be lucky. If you ask them about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area 10, if 2 know, you'll be lucky. In other words, we are not doing well.